Hello, I'm Will Roosh, and I want to introduce to you my online education platform, PATTERDOX, and explain a little bit about the name and the logo and things like that. Okay, so this is the logo and the name of my online education platform, PATTERDOX. So it looks like a little apostrophe here, but it's also a P. It's complicated, so let me explain to you. Okay, this is something that I've wanted to do my entire career. I wanted to have an influence on the education system. I see all the flaws of the education system, and this is it. So PATTERDOX, we know what a pattern is. The definition is here: a regularity in the world in human-made design or an abstract idea. So we know what a pattern is. And then dox comes from Greek, where it has the meaning opinion, idea, or belief. So essentially, I came up with this because it's this idea or this belief that there are patterns in the world. And when we study patterns in something very small, it could be in history, it could be in psychology, sociology, whatever, when we study something very small, and then we can understand something greater than just that. So the physical and the metaphysical world has patterns. Pattern recognition to accomplish deep learning is kind of the idea of what I'm trying to do with this platform. So we have to look at both the physical and the metaphysical, right? And then once you can understand patterns, I love this Miyamoto Musashi quote. He was a great swordsman. And he said, if you know the way broadly, you will see it in everything. And that's what I'm attempting to do, is to teach the way that things are in the world. And if you can study like one war, then you can understand kind of all conflicts. And that's what I'm going to be doing in all areas of PATTERDOX. So let's get into the logo, the complicated nature of this very, very cool logo. So there's the metaphysical and the spiritual meaning. I love this Albert Einstein quote. Apparently, it was like hanging above his office in Princeton. It says, "Not everything that can be counted counts, and not everything that counts can be counted." You know, he was a physicist. So this idea that there's more to the world than just the things that have weights and measures. I think that if we're going to talk about patterns, we're going to try and understand the world, we have to understand the metaphysical elements of it. So the colors are very, very specific, aligned with kind of a theological approach of both like the Old Testament, you know, the Hebrew Bible, the Torah, you know, the elements of Proverbs, but then also the New Testament elements. You know, this is part of the metaphysical world, is like religious belief. So there's elements within my logo that bring in some of that spirituality. Chaos, wisdom, knowledge, sanctification. These are all elements of reality that are addressed in like biblical texts. So you can kind of see it all laid out here. And that's the reason why the colors are what they are. But then the colors are also in a pattern. You can see down like the circles down the middle. It goes from one side to the other, because understanding the world, there are chaotic elements. You know, the Jordan Peterson book, you know, An Antidote to Chaos. You know, then there's the wisdom, you know, the life lessons that you've learned along the way. Then there's knowledge. That's an important part of it. And then sanctification, the idea that some things are sacred. And this is brought up in John Haidt's work with the righteous mind and the moral foundations theory, that there are some things that are sacred, even to people that aren't religious. You know, you might not be religious, but you would say that like maybe the American flag is sacred or something along those lines. So sanctity is something that is also very important when understanding the world. So this is a breakdown from the metaphysical, the kind of theological side. And then where they're placed also has a whole bunch of different elements within this this logo. So you can read it here. It's really complicated, but there are reasons why everything is what it is. And I think that's the way that the world works. You know, there's reasons why things are the way that they are. If you look at in nature, you know, the way that evolution works, you know, why zebras have stripes, or why, you know, certain birds do a certain dance and things like that. There are benefits. There's reasons. It's not just happenstance. It's not just like, you know, thrown out there. I love that quote that God doesn't play dice, you know, which I believe is an Einstein quote. So this concept of there's a reason why things are what they are, and then where the way that the logo is kind of put together. I like this one down here with like the father embracing the son. That's a beautiful element that has like theological elements within Christianity, but also like I have 3 sons. So I put that in there as well because it's an idea of closeness with my own children. But there's this element. But then also in the metaphysical side is the Bible cross references. So this is a Chris Harrison visual that's really incredible, and it links right down the middle, the left side is the Old Testament and the right side is the New Testament. And it's the cross references of the Bible. And it's really fascinating. Jordan Peterson has a cool breakdown of this somewhere on YouTube. That's all the ways that what was said in the Old Testament was brought to fruition in the New Testament. So you can see in the logo, there is that element, because whether or not you are a Christian, this is not a Christian program that I'm building here. It's not a Christian education program. But to deny the reality that there are a lot of metaphysical aspects to understanding the world, I think is ignorant. And I'm not going to shy away from that just because I'm not a Christian program officially. That doesn't mean that that my belief in the importance of the Bible is not going to play a role. So I'm not going to be, talking about scripture or pushing my own beliefs on students. I don't do that with politics. I don't do that with religion or anything like that in my classroom. I'm not going to do that, but it still is something that's very important, not just to me personally, but also I believe to understanding the world. I think if you want to understand the world, I think understanding religious belief is very, very important. So these cross references go back and forth. You can see that on the image here, going back and forth from the old to the new. So that's why the top of I guess it's like on the side, but like the top of that when turned on the side has all those cross references. But then there's the physical, the natural meaning. This is the stuff that like Richard Dawkins can get behind, if not the other stuff. That there are patterns in nature. And this is completely aside from any kind of religious belief, but there are patterns in nature, and have a cool image here of the way patterns work. So the Fibonacci spirals, Fibonacci sequence, this shows up all over the place, and sometimes they call it, God's signature or something like that, because it occurs everywhere. And part of the way that my design works, it looks like it kind of spirals out. It looks like a Fibonacci sequence because I thought that was really important to see a pattern. So Fibonacci sequence, and other meta patterns in nature. Meta patterns are like patterns of patterns. So there's the Mandelbrot set, and then there's the Fibonacci sequence. Fibonacci sequence, you can see here the mathematics, okay, of how it kind of adds up and grows exponentially. And the Mandelbrot set of, you can see each one of these is the same, and you zoom in, it kind of just keeps replicating itself. So these are patterns that occur in nature, and I think that if we're trying to understand patterns, and this whole program is going to be about recognizing patterns to understand the world, I think that checking out the Mandelbrot set and the Fibonacci sequence is kind of cool. So when I go to the next slide, you can see on the top and the bottom here, the top, the Mandelbrot set, the Barnsley fern. Each leaf looks like the whole fern. So it's this Mandelbrot set essentially of one leaf just replicated over and over and over again forms the whole fern. And you can see a lot of, very similar things to like a Mandelbrot set that's like man-made in nature in all these different ways. Tributaries of a river, could be snowflakes, could be stuff like that. And then on the bottom, the Fibonacci sequence from things very, very small, on like the molecular level, and all the way up to, the pattern of hurricanes and obviously conch shells and things like that. Plants and things have this Fibonacci sequence. I've seen the way that people break down like a human face, has some element of this ratio of the Fibonacci sequence. So I wanted to include that in the logo as well. But then there's the philosophical meaning, okay, which is kind of like the metaphysical, but not any specific thing in like Judeo-Christian belief, but just the idea of philosophical. We're going to try and understand morality, let's say. And I'm going to talk a lot about morality, especially like my civics class. You can study morality from a couple of different lenses. You can study it from the philosophical lens, like Immanuel Kant and the categorical imperative, universality and stuff like that. Or you can study it from a secular social science lens. You can study, The Moral Landscape by Sam Harris, who's an atheist. You can study John Haidt's work with the moral foundations theory, as I'm a huge fan of John Haidt, and he described himself as a Jewish atheist. Okay, so you can study morality from a social science lens, you can study it from a philosophical lens, or you can study it from a religious lens, look at the religious texts and stuff like that. So the same way that there's those three categories of morality, there are those three categories, I think, in pattern recognition as well. So philosophical meaning of the logo would be the yin yang, the idea that there's light and dark. There's elements of Carl Jung and Jungian psychology in this, but you can see there's clearly a a yin yang kind of style when you look at the logo itself, and you can see it here kind of compared to the yin yang. There's light and dark in everything. This is Eastern philosophical ideas. And I wanted to incorporate that as well. So it has kind of all three. So the central theme of this platform will be to learn the underlying patterns and specifics in order to apply them universally. So we'll study like a war, and then I'll explain how that'll help you in conflict with your friends or your parents or whatever it might be. But the theme of this entire platform is going to be pattern recognition to try and understand the world. So I hope this clears it up a little bit. I'm really excited to share this. Please check out PATTERDOX.com if you're interested. You want to get some resources, you want to reach out and learn more, please check it out. I'm excited to share this far and wide.